Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive into Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer.
Yeah.
This book is, it's incredible, and we're going to unpack it together, explore the beauty and the wisdom found where indigenous knowledge and scientific observation intersect. This book isn't just about plants and nature, though.
Yeah.
It's about our relationship with the living world and what it means to live in reciprocity with the earth.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to have my mind blown wide open.
I am too. I'm so excited.
I think what makes Braiding Sweetgrass so captivating is the way that Kimmerer just kind of weaves together, personal stories and indigenous teachings and scientific insights.
Yeah.
It's just like she's braiding a beautiful braid of knowledge,
Exactly. And she starts with this creation story that really sets the stage for the whole book.
Yeah.
The story of Sky Woman.
Right. Sky Woman falls from the sky world.
Okay.
And lands on the back of a turtle.
Yep.
She has nothing. Oh.
But the animals of the earth, they take pity on her. And they bring her gifts of soil and seeds and all she needs to survive.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
So think about your own connection to this place.
All right.
You call home, right?
Yeah.
What gifts have you received from the land? How do you reciprocate those gifts?
That's what Kimmerer asks us to consider.
I know. It's so powerful.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of seeing nature as something to exploit,
right,
we're invited to see it as a source of gift that we have a responsibility to honor and to reciprocate.
Yeah, and she brings this to life with her personal story about gathering pecans with her grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I loved that story.
Me too.
Picture this. You're a young boy with pockets overflowing with pecans.
Yeah.
Your pants tied at the ankles to hold even more.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of abundance Kimmerer grew up experiencing.
Abundance.
But she also contrasts that with the deliberate scarcity we see in the marketplace.
Yep.
Remember her unease about those perfectly packaged strawberries at the grocery store?
Yes. Those strawberries plucked from their context.
Yeah.
They just felt wrong somehow.
It just felt off.
Yeah, like they've been robbed of their story.
Yeah.
And their connection to the earth.
Yeah, it made me think about all the things I buy.
Right.
And how...
Have we lost the ability to recognize the gifts of the natural world?
Yeah.
In our consumer culture.
Yeah, and it leads us to another fascinating aspect of the book, language.
Language, yeah.
Kimmerer, a botanist trained in Western science,
Right,
struggles to learn her ancestral Potawatomi language.
Yeah.
She finds that it's not just about vocabulary,
No.
but about seeing the world in a fundamentally different way.
Absolutely. And one of the most striking examples is this concept of animacy in the Potawatomi language.
Okay.
All living beings, from trees to rocks to water,
Wow.
are considered persons.
Okay.
And the language reflects that.
Interesting.
Instead of saying, it's an apple,
Yeah.
you'd say apple, that being is.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Imagine how our interactions with nature would change.
Yeah.
If we adopted a similar grammatical framework.
It's wild.
I know.
It's like giving a voice to these beings, recognizing them as active participants in the world, rather than just passive objects.
Yeah.
It's a totally different way of relating to the world around us.
It challenges the very foundation of our human-centric worldview.
It does.
Speaking of interconnectedness, Kimmerer introduces us to the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard of this.
Okay.
But I'm excited to hear her take.
I was mesmerized by how she describes their symbiotic relationship.
Okay.
The corn provides support for the beans to climb.
Okay.
The beans fix nitrogen into the soil.
Uh-huh.
And the squash shades the ground, keeping moisture in and weeds out.
Okay.
So each plant supports the others, not out of conscious choice, but just by fulfilling its own needs.
It's like this perfectly choreographed dance of interdependence.
Yeah.
And it's not just a beautiful example of ecological harmony.
Right.
It's a model for human communities.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could learn to recognize and share our individual gifts in a way that supports the flourishing of the whole community.
That's where the concept of reciprocity becomes so important, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about taking. It's about giving back.
Yeah.
Contributing to the well-being of the whole.
Yeah.
And it's beautifully illustrated in the idea of the honorable harvest.
Okay. I am completely fascinated by this whole honorable harvest thing. Can you explain what that is?
The honorable harvest is, it's not just about taking what you need from the earth.
Okay.
It's about a whole set of principles and practices that guide respectful and sustainable gathering.
Okay.
It's about asking permission.
Okay.
Taking only what's offered. Using everything you take.
Okay.
Sharing what you've gathered. Giving thanks.
Yeah.
And reciprocating the gift.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And Kimmerer's research on sweetgrass shows that harvesting, when done with respect, can actually stimulate growth.
I know.
It challenges this assumption that harvesting always depletes resources.
It all goes back to reciprocity.
Yeah.
If we approach the natural world with respect and gratitude, if we take only what we need and give back in return, we can create a cycle of abundance that benefits both humans and the ecosystem.
It's amazing to think about how indigenous knowledge and scientific observation can work together like that.
Totally.
It's giving me a whole new perspective on my own relationship with nature.
Me too, and we're just scratching the surface.
I know.
Kimmerer dives even deeper into these themes as the book goes on.
I'm excited.
What stands out to you so far?
Honestly, everything. But I'm especially intrigued by this idea of the Wendigo.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like such a dark and almost scary concept.
Yeah. The Wendigo embodies greed.
Okay.
Consumption and ultimately self-destruction.
Yikes.
It represents the danger of taking without giving back.
Right.
Of consuming without regard for the consequences.
That sounds pretty relevant to the environmental challenges we're facing today.
It is, and in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the Wendigo manifests in the modern world and what we can do to counter its destructive influence.
Okay.
We'll also talk about the Seventh Fire Prophecy, which offers like a glimmer of hope for a different future.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is getting really interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you really think about our place in the world and the choices we make every day.
Join us next time as we continue to untangle the beautiful and complex braid of braiding sweetgrass.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back to our deep dive into braiding sweetgrass.
Yeah.
Last time we were talking about the Wendigo,
right.
A concept that really stuck with me.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, like it feels so relevant to the environmental challenges we face today.
Yeah.
Like we're on this path of like overconsumption and destruction.
One of the things I appreciate about Kimmerer's work, she doesn't shy away from like the difficult realities.
Yeah.
But she also offers like a way forward.
Okay.
A path towards healing and renewal.
Okay. So where do we go from there?
Remember the story about the restoration efforts at Onondaga Lake?
Oh, yes. The lake that was heavily polluted by industrial waste.
Right.
I was amazed by the way that Kimmerer described that whole restoration process. It wasn't just about removing the pollutants. Sure. It was about restoring the relationship between the people and the lake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There were all sorts of approaches, from the scientific to the ceremonial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were some of those?
Well, they even had a community ceremony.
Oh, wow.
Where people brought water from their home places to blend with the waters of Onondaga Lake.
It's like a powerful symbol of healing.
It is.
And renewal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that we're all connected to the earth.
Yeah.
Our actions have ripple effects. Speaking of connections, I was really struck by the chapter on the maple sugar moon.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just about the process of making maple syrup. Right. It was about, like, the relationship between the people and the maple trees.
Right. Yeah.
Beautiful exchange of gifts.
The maple trees offer their sap.
Yeah.
And in return, the people care for the trees.
Okay.
Ensuring their health and longevity.
Wow.
And Kimmerer talks about how the sweetness of the syrup is like this reminder of the generosity of the earth.
Right.
And our responsibility to reciprocate that generosity.
It makes you appreciate those little bottles of maple syrup so much more.
It does.
Doesn't it? It's not just a commodity.
No.
It's like a gift.
Yeah.
The result of this long-standing relationship between humans and nature.
Right. And then she contrasts that with her family's encounter with Hazel.
Oh, yeah.
A woman who lived in deep connection with nature.
Okay.
Remember the story about the witch hazel blooming in November?
Oh, I loved that story.
In the midst of late fall?
Yeah.
When everything seems to be dying back.
Right.
This little witch hazel shrub.
Yeah.
It just bursts into bloom.
Yeah.
Defying the odds.
It was so cool.
It was a reminder to Kimmerer.
Yeah.
And to us that even in the darkest times, there's always beauty and resilience to be found in nature.
Hazel just seemed to embody that sense of reciprocity.
She took only what she needed.
Yeah.
And gave back in countless ways.
And then there's that story about the pond.
Oh, yeah.
Kimmerer wanted to like create this haven for her children, a place where they could experience the wonders of nature.
Right, a little sanctuary.
Yeah, but her efforts to like restore the pond to some idealized state didn't quite go as planned.
Her struggle with the algae and the tadpoles.
Yeah.
It speaks to the complexities of ecological restoration, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we don't always have all the answers.
Right.
And that sometimes the best approach is to simply observe, listen, and learn from the wisdom of the natural world.
Which brings us back to the importance of Indigenous knowledge.
Yeah.
Kimmerer talks about how Indigenous cultures have been observing and interacting with nature for millennia.
Right.
Developing this deep understanding of the intricate web of life.
And she highlights the value of traditional ecological knowledge, which is often passed down through generations of storytelling, observation, and practice.
So it's like a way of knowing that's rooted in place, in direct experience, and in a deep respect for the natural world.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about the example of sweetgrass harvesting.
Oh, yeah.
It turns out that harvesting sweetgrass, when done respectfully, can actually promote growth.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
That goes against everything I thought I knew about harvesting.
Yeah. This is where Indigenous knowledge and scientific observation can really complement each other.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the importance of considering multiple perspectives and ways of knowing.
So how do we bring these ideas into our everyday lives? The honorable harvest seems like a good place to start.
Yeah.
But it can feel a bit daunting in our modern world where we're so disconnected from the sources of the things we consume.
I think it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Paying attention to where our food comes from.
Right.
The resources we use.
Yeah.
The impact of our choices on the environment.
It's about being mindful.
It is.
Remember John the basket maker?
Oh, yeah.
And his teachings about respecting the ash trees?
He wouldn't harvest an ash tree
for
basket making unless he had already planted another one to take its place.
Yeah. It was a beautiful example of thinking about the future.
It is.
About ensuring the well-being of the next generation.
It's about shifting our mindset from one of taking to one of giving.
Reciprocity.
Of reciprocity.
Yeah.
Instead of asking, what can I get from the earth? We can ask, what can I give back?
That's a good one.
And those gifts can take many forms.
Okay.
It could be planting a tree.
Okay.
Volunteering at a local park. Or simply spending time in nature and appreciating its beauty.
I also keep thinking about that idea of animacy.
Yeah.
And how it could change our relationship with the natural world.
It's huge.
Remember the example of saying apple that being is?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of it's just an apple.
Right.
It's such a subtle shift, but it really changes how you perceive the apple, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not just an object. It's like being a person.
Right. And imagine the ripple effects if we all started to speak and think about the natural world in that way.
Right. What if we started to see trees, rivers, mountains, even the soil beneath our feet as beings with their own inherent rights and value?
It would definitely change how we treat them.
Yeah.
It would encourage more respect, more care,
more gratitude.
Yeah. Kimmerer acknowledges that it's not easy to shift our language.
Right.
Especially when we're so steeped in a culture that often sees nature as separate from ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something to be controlled and used for our own purposes. But she encourages us to find ways, even small ways, to reclaim that sense of animacy, that connection to the living world.
What are some of those ways?
She talks about the importance of spending time in nature. Observing the cycles of life and death.
Right.
Listening to the stories the land has to tell.
It's about slowing down.
It is.
And paying attention.
And she emphasizes the power of gratitude. Remembering to give thanks for the gifts the earth provides.
Yeah.
Even the simplest things like clean air, fresh water, the food we eat.
It's so easy to take those things for granted.
I know it is.
But when you stop and really appreciate them, it shifts your whole perspective.
It does.
I'm also thinking about that community ceremony at Onondaga Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Where people brought water from their home places to blend with the polluted waters of the lake.
Yeah.
It was such a powerful symbol of healing and renewal.
It was. And it reminded me that we're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
We have each other. And we have the wisdom of our ancestors and the resilience of the earth to guide us.
Okay, but what about the challenges?
Right.
We're still facing so many environmental problems. How do we deal with the Wendigo in the modern world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Wendigo, that insatiable hunger for more, that spirit of greed and consumption is deeply ingrained in our culture.
But Kimmerer offers some hope.
She does.
Some ways to counter that destructive force.
Right.
Like what? Give me some hope.
Well, she reminds us that the Wendigo is not like an unstoppable force.
Okay.
It's a choice.
Okay.
A path we can choose to walk or to resist.
We have agency.
We do.
Yeah.
And she points to the power of Indigenous wisdom.
Okay.
Those values of reciprocity, balance, and respect for the natural world as antidotes to the Wendigo's influence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the story about Lionel the Trapper.
Oh, yeah.
He lived a life that was so deeply connected to nature, and he had this like profound respect for the animals he trapped.
Yeah.
It was a reminder that even within systems that are often associated with exploitation, there's room for ethical practices.
Right.
And a deep connection to the land.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices, aligning our actions with our values.
It's about recognizing that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of the earth.
It is.
It can be hard to stay hopeful sometimes. But Kimmerer's book reminds us that even small acts of kindness, respect, and reciprocity can make a difference.
Absolutely. And in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll explore one of the most hopeful and powerful concepts in the book, the seventh fire prophecy.
Okay.
It's a prophecy that speaks of a time of great change and a choice between two paths. A grassy path, representing healing and renewal, and a scorched path, representing destruction.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's a powerful one.
I'm ready to hear more about that.
Me too. So join us next time as we continue our journey through the wisdom of braiding sweetgrass.
Welcome back to our deep dive into braiding sweetgrass.
Yeah.
We've been exploring so many fascinating ideas.
We have.
Reciprocity, the honorable harvest, even the unsettling concept of the Wendigo.
Right.
But now I'm really curious to hear more about this seventh fire prophecy you mentioned.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it sounds like a turning point in the book.
It is.
Yeah.
The seventh fire prophecy speaks of a time of great change.
Okay.
A time when the world is out of balance.
So like now?
Yeah, it's a time of reckoning.
Okay.
Where we have to choose between two paths.
Okay, what are the paths?
A scorched path.
Okay.
Blackened by the fires of greed and destruction.
Right.
Or a grassy path.
Okay.
Leading towards healing and renewal.
It feels like we're standing at that crossroads right now.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, with all the environmental challenges we face.
Yeah.
So which path do we choose? How do we even know which way to go?
Kimmerer doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
But she suggests that the key lies in remembering our indigenous roots.
Okay.
Reconnecting with the wisdom of our ancestors who lived in harmony with the earth for generations.
I'm thinking about that story of Nanaboso.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Anishinaabe original man.
Right.
Kimmerer uses his story to explore what it means to become indigenous to a place.
Yeah, like what does that even mean?
Yeah. Nanaboso, like all of us, had to learn how to live in a right relationship with the world around him.
He did.
He had to learn to listen to the other beings, to respect their boundaries, to take only what was offered and to give back in return.
It's like he had to unlearn some of the more dominant human-centric ways of thinking.
Right.
And relearn a way of being that was more in tune with the natural world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kimmerer draws these parallels between Nanaboso's journey and her own experiences.
Right.
As a botanist and a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation.
It's a reminder that becoming indigenous to a place isn't just about ancestry or bloodlines.
Right.
It's about a way of life.
Yeah.
A way of relating to the earth and all its inhabitants.
I love that. It takes the focus away from who you are.
Right.
And puts it on how you live.
How you live, yeah.
And how you connect to the place you call home.
And it suggests that anyone, regardless of their background, can choose to walk a path of reciprocity and respect for the earth.
So how do we do that? How do we become more indigenous to this place, this earth that we all share?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kimmerer seems to suggest that language plays a crucial role.
Language.
Yeah.
Okay.
She talks about how the Potawatomi language, her ancestral language, embodies a worldview that recognizes the animacy of all beings.
Remember that example of saying, apple that being is?
Yes.
Instead of, it's just an apple?
It's such a subtle shift, but it really changes how you perceive that apple.
It does. It's not just an object, it's a being.
Yeah, a person. And imagine the ripple effects if we all started to speak and think about the natural world in that way.
What if we started to see trees rivers, mountains, even the soil beneath our feet as beings with their own inherent rights and value.
It would change how we treat them.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make us more mindful, more respectful.
More likely to act as caretakers rather than exploiters.
Exactly.
Kimmerer acknowledges that it's not easy to shift our language.
Right.
Especially when we're so steeped in a culture that often sees nature as separate from ourselves.
Right, as something to be controlled and used for our own purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
But she encourages us to find ways, even small ways, to reclaim that sense of animacy, that connection to the living world.
How?
She talks about the importance of spending time in nature, of observing the cycles of life and death, of listening to the stories the land has to tell.
Just being present.
Yeah, being present.
And she emphasizes the power of gratitude.
Gratitude.
Remembering to give thanks for the gifts that the earth provides.
Even the simplest things, like clean air, fresh water, the food we eat.
It's easy to take those things for granted.
I know it is.
But when you stop and really appreciate them,
Yeah.
it shifts your whole perspective.
It really does.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about that community ceremony at Onondaga Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Where people brought water from their home places.
Right.
To blend with those polluted waters of the lake.
Such a powerful symbol of healing and renewal.
It was.
And it reminded me that we're not alone in this journey.
No, we're not.
We have each other.
We do.
And we have the wisdom of our ancestors and the resilience of the earth to guide us.
That's right.
Okay, but the challenges are still real.
Yeah.
The choices we make now.
Right.
They have ripple effects.
They do.
For generations to come.
Braiding Sweetgrass doesn't offer easy answers.
Right.
But it does provide us with a roadmap.
Okay.
A set of values. A way of seeing the world that can help us navigate these challenging times.
It's a call to action. An invitation to reclaim our role as caretakers of the earth.
To remember the wisdom of indigenous cultures. To find ways to weave together scientific understanding and spiritual connection.
And most importantly, it's a reminder that we have the power to choose.
We do.
Yeah.
We can choose to walk the grassy path.
The path of balance, harmony, and respect for the natural world.
That's it.
And in doing so, we can create a brighter future for ourselves, for future generations, and for all beings who share this beautiful planet.
Well said.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with me.
This has been great.
Braiding Sweetgrass has given me so much to think about.
Me too.
And I'm excited to continue exploring these ideas in my own life.
Yeah, me too.
And for everyone listening out there,
yeah,
I encourage you to seek out this book and discover its wisdom for yourself.
It's a gift.
It is.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Braiding Sweetgrass.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.